Okay, so now we're live on Spaces and all three of those video streams. And just so everybody knows, we're training a new guy to do my job, and that is Christian. Lean in, Christian, and wave.
Oh, opposite
this
direction.
Way.
There's Christian.
Yeah.
He's doing a good job. He's learning real well, real fast.
Thank you.
So.
Yep.
So now reopen Audacity down there. Just click on the taskbar, and then you hit record. And David, can you say something?
Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3.
Okay, his audio is coming in. We already know the studio audio is. So now just minimize that. And so you guys are rolling, and
all right.
You may begin when you choose.
Very good.
And then Christian can just exit.
Exit stage left.
Thanks, Christian.
Or right.
Mirror image.
Yeah. Good morning, people on Rumble and YouTube and X. Not so much chatter today, I see.
Very quiet today.
Yeah.
All right. You ready?
Sure.
Here we go. In 3, 2, 1. And welcome. It is Perilous World Radio. Jan Masters joining me, David Masters today. Jan, for those of you who are just joining us, is my sister-in-law.
Hello, hello.
Hello. Good to have you here. Today, I want to talk something about angelic presences in our life, because I know that a lot of people actually say that they believe in such things as angels. But there's a lot more conversation about the dark side of this, which is the demons. But for this program, I want to focus on angels because I really personally have been becoming aware, and I mentioned this to you, Jan, about these presences. And, you know, I don't think that people actually realize how present these beings or these presences really can be. So I'd love to get your thoughts on that before I play some audio.
Well, I do believe we all have a guardian angel. There are people who say they've actually seen their guardian angel, which is interesting. There are people who say they've seen good angels and the bad angels warring in between earth and heaven over the ability to speak into each of our lives. So I do definitely believe they exist, and they're either doing the will of God or the will of the other.
Yes, indeed. Well, I, for one, have seen mine. I've seen my two that I was given at birth.
Really?
And yeah, I've seen them. I didn't see them fully, but when I was probably 17 years old, I got into a huge argument with my dad, and I stormed out of the house, and I thought, I'm never going back there. And I got down to the end of the street where my dad lived, and I looked up into the fog, and I saw these watermarks, these huge cherubs, huge. And in so many, but not in words, but in a knowing, they said to me, there's nothing out there for you.
Interesting.
And I stopped in my tracks, and I just thought, oh my goodness, this is real. This is real.
And who knows what you averted?
I don't.
Right?
Yeah, I don't.
You
even
don't want to
think
know.
about it.
You don't need
It's
to
too
know.
frightening. Yeah. Yep. So, and then as I start to look back on my life, I realize that there was something keeping me alive and something protecting me. And I have many, many instances in which I can identify, which I won't right now, but I can identify times in my life where I now understand and it's just beginning to dawn on me. So I'm just sharing it as we go along here. I mean,
Okay.
just over the last couple of weeks, that I wasn't alone. And this is, I've got some audio on Padre Pio, and I know that many people, Catholics, revere Padre Pio. Very interesting person, very, very devout, godly man. And I've got some audio that I want to play about some of his experiences, and particularly with angels.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm beginning to see that in my own life, there was a counterforce to the dark side
Yes.
that was there,
Yes.
watching over me, and I believe that it always has been. At this point, but I'm just starting to kind of come into the deeper realizations about all the times in my life where I could have deep sixed and been, hurt really badly or even died.
Yeah.
And there was something that prevented it. Any thoughts on that?
Well, yes, and we've talked before on different instances in our life where something warned us spiritually without words, whether it was telling me to slow down in my car or you not go surfing today. There is a communication that happens. Whether it's the Holy Spirit or your guardian angel, I don't know. I do know that whatever they are, whatever it is when you are aligned with the Father and you've given your life to Him and you call out to Him, He sends His angels or His messengers. Do you remember the story? I'm sure you do, in the scripture where I think it was a Roman soldier or something, comes up to Jesus and says, I want you to heal my servant.
Yep.
And Jesus, I'm going to really mess up the story, but I think he's going to go to his house and he says, no, you don't even need to go to my house because I understand authority. I have men under me, and if I say do this, they do it. And all you need to do is say the word and I know it will happen, right? So it's kind of interesting because angels are all throughout the Bible.
Yes.
God created them for His purpose, not for us to worship. They are not to be worshipped. They are servants of the Father. So they answer the call when God gives the order.
Yeah, and I must say, though, that from my understanding at this point, that it's good if you call on them, but they're always there anyway. Well, because where are they going to go? They're not going to depart. They are put with you from the time, maybe even before you're born, and they're there whether you realize it or not. Now, if you realize it, you're one step ahead of the game. But at the same time, I think it's dangerous to take these things for granted or to not appreciate the gravity of what it is that you have there, guarding over you and looking over you.
You can go your whole life and not know that you have angels protecting you. But that knowledge, you may find out later. But I think the most important thing is that you're going to directly to the Father and to Jesus, because you can, there is this whole New Age thing about angels and making them the star of the show, which they are not meant to be, and which is why Lucifer, I guess was his name, fell.
Yeah.
Because he wanted the worship, right? So it's interesting.
Yeah, and I want to make a point too, because I am one who has studied near-death experiences for decades, and I've come to conclude that the dark side also has access to you during near-death experiences to deceive you and delude your mind in such ways as you just mentioned, to actually make you worship something other than God.
Yes.
with strange but beautiful visions and
Yes.
things of that nature. But I got
Yes.
to tell you, I'm absolutely convinced now that the dark side, depending upon your inclination,
Mhm.
it has access to you just as much as the good Lord and His angels. So
Now,
I want to make
yeah,
clear
I
that
forgot to press my start. How much time do we have?
1 minute and 20 seconds.
So I just want to respond really quick to a really good point. Enough Pets, Janet says, Jan, you don't always have to be aligned with God. Believing is what's important. When I was deep in sin, I cried out to God and He sent someone to help me. So I do want to clarify that, because when I say be aligned, what I mean is that you are covered by the sacrifice. Doesn't mean you're walking perfectly. It means that you have been bought. You are relinquishing yourself. Now, obviously, when you're in sin and you cry out and you're not there yet, many times God answers. Absolutely. So I'm not saying you have to be like perfect person to get your prayers answered. I don't believe that.
Yeah, and I do think that there are moments when there is an intervention that potentially allows you to go, wait a minute, I shouldn't be here. Okay, well, we got to take a quick break and we'll continue this. I got some great audio.
Right.
Please visit FHU.com and make sure that you keep this program on the air. If you get anything out of it, your donations are tax deductible. Help us out at FHU.com. We'll be right back. Okay. And in 3, 2, 1. All right, continuing the program, Jan Masters and David Masters today, and talking about the presences, because I think that's probably the best way to describe something that has, a angel attached to it. Now, there's also angels of darkness, and in the lost books of the Bible and the forgotten books of Eden, the devil himself comes to Adam and Eve as an angel of light. And I've always found that interesting. I started reading that when I was probably 21, 22 years old. I read the whole book.
So you're talking about, let's just be clear, in the lost books of the Bible, they go into things that happened after they were kicked out of the garden. Is that what you're talking about? Or was it before
Yes.
they? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, there is very interesting writings about what happened after they fell. So go ahead.
A lot of deception, and so there was a time when they felt so deeply grieved and ashamed and depressed, I guess you would say, that they both climbed a mountain, and so then this supposed angelic thing said to them, "Look, God loves you so much, even if you throw yourself off the mountain, God will restore you." But and this is exactly
That's
what
exactly
happened.
what he said to Jesus too.
That's exactly right.
Right. Oh gosh, David, I just have to say that's so interesting, because there it is, Jesus, who's a lot of people call the second Adam, basically had to go through the same testing, but come out the victor. So the same things that Adam was tempted with, now Jesus was tempted with.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I just remember thinking, and because the warning was in the lost books of the Bible that this creature is a shapeshifter. It was a shapeshifter from the very beginning when it took the form of some slithering thing that approached Eve in the garden. This thing is a shapeshifter, and it's a metaphysical, spiritual shapeshifter. I don't know whether or not it can take on human form, but I do think that at some level, there is a similarity between what was revealed in the movie The Matrix, where anybody that's in the Matrix can be occupied by an agent of the Matrix. And so, well, we live in this parallel universe of either light or darkness, and depending upon what you're inclined toward spiritually, I believe, and I was watching something on TV, or I heard a story. I think it was on the Joe Rogan podcast, where this minister was talking about these dark forces, and somebody had told him a story where this young man went into a bar, and this beautiful woman approached him, and she was all over this guy like white on rice. And the bartender came over to him and he says, "She's interested in you, yeah?" And he goes, "Yeah, oh yeah." And the bartender says, "Don't go anywhere with her." So it's like he knew that
Yeah.
she was this dark force operating,
Bait.
in these vulnerable places. And so, yeah, I do believe that these beings can step into and take over people's bodies, for lack of a better word, like the movie The Ghost.
Well, if you open the door, right? Open the
Yep.
door. Like in the old Dracula movies, they knock on the door. If you open and
yeah.
invite them in, they will come in. And GWC Rumble says, Corinthians 11:14 says, "For Satan himself masquerades as an angel of light."
Yes, indeed. Well, you mentioned before we started how things are getting crazy in Minneapolis. That mayor looks like a little angelic person on the surface with his, little boy-like face.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but that Mayor Fry. He is gonna fry. That's all I can say, because he's defending all the wrong things and making excuses. And there's people that, they come across, and it's really weird how easily deceived we are by appearances.
And let's look at this one here. Eyes to see reminds us in Hebrews 13:2 says that people may entertain angels without realizing it.
Mm-hmm.
Angels unaware. So basically, sometimes God will test you and put maybe a person in need in front of you to see what you will do, right? And or sometimes you're in an accident and somebody comes out of nowhere and helps you, and then they disappear. So God does allow angels to take form and take shape to help us or test us or do many things.
Oh, yeah, I've heard, and again, looking at the experiences that people have, there's a show on A&E, I think it is called I Shouldn't Be Alive, or I think it's what it's called, but they really do have some amazing stories of people. I remember one. There was an older man who had a terrible car accident, and he was on the dark side of a mountain, which means that there wasn't any radio signal. So he had a CB and he had his phone, but he couldn't get any signal. But he was still calling for somebody to help him. All of a sudden, a priest shows up out of nowhere,
Right.
and he speaks to the man. He gives him comfort. I don't know what he does, but so then at some point, the first responders, and the ambulance shows up, and the man survived the accident, but he wanted to know where the priest was, and said there was nobody here. So I really, really believe that there are manifestations of both good and evil that show up in a human form, because otherwise, how would we recognize what we're dealing with, right?
Right.
So
That's right.
and the other side of it is the seductive side of that, which is, oh my gosh, there was Jan. You probably remember this name, Guy Kemp. Remember him?
Yeah.
For many,
goes
many,
way
many,
back.
many years ago.
Was he a radio guy?
He was a radio guy.
Okay.
There's an interesting story about him, though, I'll tell you in a nutshell,
Okay.
that he was about to throw himself off the end of a pier and end his life. And all of a sudden, this woman shows up in his life and snags him back. Now, this woman was not a good person, a person of earthly delights.
Yeah.
But she got a hold of him, and she just completely ruled his life. And so there are times where people will show up to save you, but that's only because maybe you were right on the cusp, right on the edge of finding God.
Boy, how do you know when what is sent to you is from God or from
Well, you
the
have
other
to test
side?
the spirit, right?
You do.
You test the spirit.
You do.
But if you don't have it in you to do that, you're in trouble. All right,
Yes.
quick break here. We'll continue this, because I'm going to get into this Padre Pio. a very interesting stuff. And please remember, FHU.com is where you find the Be Still and Know exercise. It realigns your intent with God. FHU.com or P.O. Box 1000, Grants Pass, Oregon 97528. Tax deductible donations, if you will, help us out. We'll be right back. Okay, and this is a long segment.
Okay.
In 3, 2, 1. Okay, continuing. I know you had some thoughts about what we were talking about, Jan. What are you thinking?
Well, let's see. What somebody made a comment up here about the angels that the prophet Elisha saw an army of angels, and I can't remember if it was Elisha or Elijah, but they were up in the mountains, and the enemy army was coming after them, and the one person, I'm sorry, I don't know the names, I just remember the story, was afraid. And then I think it was Elisha or Elijah prayed for the other person's eyes to be open. And then they saw an army of spiritual angels protecting them. It's a great, great story. But that just goes to show we don't know what is being done on our behalf. Most of us, I believe, after we die, are going to see so many times that our life was saved,
yep,
or a person was sent just at the right time when we needed them. And he hasn't left us alone here. A lot of times we feel that way, but he does send either angels or people. He taps a person on the shoulder, says, call that person, go see how they're doing. Whatever it is, the Spirit of God is always working, trying to reach us.
And it depends on whether or not you're receptive, essentially, right, because if you're distracted or if you're full of emotion and rage or frustration and fear, those things have a tendency to drain you. And then you're always in this state of trying to recover from the things that have got a hold of you and that you're reacting to. And, that kind of thing also causes you to attract more problems. It's like, if you take a look at it objectively, like in the ocean when sharks smell blood in the water, so even if a fish just has a wound, it alerts something out there to the wounded. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so you can attract things that you would otherwise not attract had you, let's say, tended to the wound and started your recovery process. But you can only actually recover, through this relationship with the light, with the truth, with God, with Christ. There's only one actual way to recover. Now, the flip side of that is you can go and you can get, and the psychotropics and the stuff that helps you deal with the anxiety and deal with, the struggle, but it becomes like a chemical straitjacket. So you're really not actually recovering. You're being bound so that you feel that you're sort of more in control than you actually are. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. A lot of people in that trap.
Yeah. I want to play this first clip of Padre Pio talking about angels. It's only, it's a minute and 24 seconds. And here it comes.
Have you ever wondered what happens to your soul the moment your body surrenders to sleep? Do you see only darkness when you close your eyes? Or does an invisible world awaken around you that your senses cannot perceive? Padre Pio of Pietrelcina saw what most never witness. He saw the angels who guard the sleeping, and what he revealed changes everything we thought we knew about rest, protection, and the hidden battle fought over every human soul when consciousness fades and the body lies, defenseless in the night. Padre Pio was a man who walked between two worlds. He lived with one foot on earth and the other pressed firmly into the realm of spirits, where angels moved like flames and demons prowled like wolves in the dark. From his earliest years, God granted him not only the vision of his own guardian angel, but the ability to see the angels assigned to others. These were not distant figures glowing softly in devotional paintings. They were real, active, present, companions who carried prayers across impossible distances, who shielded souls from unseen assaults, and who mourned when the ones they guarded refused to listen. Padre Pio did not theorize about angels. He lived with them.
Yes, indeed. And I do believe that people, if they reflect on their own lives, they will see that they weren't alone at times, even though it felt maybe like they were. But then the problem is that in an ego condition, we always see the world as we are. So we feel that whatever it is that we feel is the actual reality, as opposed to just us as a projection of how we are experiencing things. You know what I mean?
Right, right. And I think Padre Pio was most known for the stigmata, where he used to have the, what is it, the holes or the blood on his hands where Jesus bled or something like that. I know he was Catholic, right?
Yes. And again, this is not an endorsement of any particular thing other than the story of this padre who was clearly a person who was really in tune with his creator by choice, by the way. You don't, this is the other thing, is that it doesn't happen by any chance or circumstance. It actually happens through a consistent level of choice about who you want to be as opposed to who you don't want to be. And we have the ability to detect, like children do. Children are very in tune with spiritual things. And so when they detect something that is not of God, it sort of rubs against them, and they don't know how to deal with it. So they repel it. They step back and they say, "Oh, I don't," and they cry, or they say, "I'm afraid," or whatever. But we are not as in tune as we get older. We get burdened by the world that we live in. Your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, some people are more sensitive to seeing spiritual things. A lot of people had that when they were small. They would see dark things in their house, or, not everyone is like that. It's just a certain thing that some people have.
Yeah. Well, and again, I think that there are certain people that retain a certain degree of their connection so that the human experience has some light in it. Otherwise, if there weren't people that were set aside, I think my dad was one of those people who was set aside. I think there are people that we see
throughout history.
Yeah, I just think that there are people who are set aside so that the light doesn't go out, because we are really surrounded,
Well, speaking of set aside, that really is the whole story of the Jewish people. They were called out of the world and set aside for a purpose. Not to say they are better or worse than any other people, but they were chosen for a specific journey to take. And in my opinion, it was to obviously start to bring man and God back together after the garden. But in order to do that, God had to bring his laws, because they were just very carnal and wild. And so he took this sect of people for his own to tell the story of mankind and to bring forth a Messiah through them. But, many people think that chosen means they're better than everyone else. I just say it's chosen for a specific purpose. So are you. Everyone is chosen for a specific purpose. And I'll tell you this, being the chosen people is not an easy position to be in. Look at what's happening to them right now. They're all throughout history being attacked. And not only that, God God expects more of them, and he chastises them, David, publicly in the scripture all the time. So they're not like getting special privileges. They got a special inheritance of the land of Israel, okay? But they are called to be a holy people. And when they weren't, and when they were off track, God chastised them harshly in the Old Testament. And then Jesus in the New Testament chastised the ones that were in spiritual high places of authority. Because there was one Jewish guy who said, every story in the New Testament puts the Jews in a bad light. We're always the villain. And, you know, I watched this little YouTube video and I answered on there. I said, yes, you are right. But you know who spoke the most harshly to the Jewish people was God in the Old Testament. He was constantly voicing his anger at them. And he had very choice words in many parts in the Old Testament. So I said, and then Jesus did the same thing in his own way, like father, like son, isn't it? Like father, like son. He did not drop he followed through with what his father followed through. But then again, the people, the Jewish people who were, you know, repentant, received healing and all kinds of
gifts,
and forgiveness,
all kinds of gifts,
and forgiveness. Yes. Mm-hmm. So it's not that the Jews are this or that. They just represent human nature. They represent human nature.
Yeah, I think that at some level, the Jewish people have a spiritual PTSD because they still haven't accepted Jesus, which is very strange to me. As one of their own, they should immediately embrace him. But we'll continue this conversation in the next segment. Yeah, because, all right, FA2.com, find out about the Be Still and No Exercise. King David was very deep thinker and repentant man, and God loved him very much. So he loves you just as much. I'll be right back. All right. In 3, 2, 1. Continuing, we will explain, I don't know, maybe we can't explain why the Jewish people haven't expected or accepted their Savior, Jan.
Well, I
What
do
you
have a
think about
theory. I do have a theory because this has interested me, and I have listened to certain Jewish rabbis who are on YouTube, and it was fascinating for me to hear their arguments, because I used to think, how could they have rejected Jesus? Well, David, and I responded to one guy one time, I said, now I see why Jesus had such a problem with the Pharisees and the scribes, because they can excuse away anything, argue anything, roundabout, and it's like, wow, you can't convince them. Now, my theory is, well, two things. In the Old Testament, in Isaiah, God says basically he's going to shut their ears and their eyes for a time. They will not be able to see, David, and they can't see it right now. But the way that was accomplished, I understood very deeply after we went through what we went through in the last 4 years, which was the, what's it called when you don't let people speak online and you censor.
And canceled, yeah.
The censorship, okay? The censorship was coming over us like a dark cloud, where all you could listen to was the authorities, the doctor authorities. You couldn't listen to your own mind. And what I realized after doing some research is that the Pharisees who still exist today have a stronghold on the minds of the Jewish people. The Jewish people still look at the Pharisees as the authority in their life. They don't read it for themselves. They find out what the Pharisees say about it and why we don't believe in Jesus. And they're taught, David, in school from very young, this certain way. And I say they are the first fact checkers. The first fact checkers. And they literally have a stronghold. And so, I mean, every Jewish person online that I see that they're literally carrying an unbroken line from the Pharisees when Jesus was here to today. And
Interesting that you say that.
Yeah.
Because, remember when the Jewish people demanded that they have a king?
Yes.
Well,
right.
Now, but what if that has now, over the last thousands of years, become, I am my own king? And that separates them just enough from God not to be able to see that there's salvation available to them, because they're in charge of their own life, their own salvation. Whatever they want to do is up to them. That sounds to me perfectly like a liberal. Now, let me play a clip from Roy here. I got this. This is only 38 seconds, but it kind of makes the point.
Dealing with a very profound subject on brainwashing and mind control, explaining that the mental and emotional illness in America and the violence and the school violence and the drunkenness and the pornography and the drugs and everything is all caused by one simple thing it's called brainwashing and mind control. And we all practice it. The bully at school practices brainwashing and mind control and gets others to side with him and to think like the bully and to bully as the bully.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, in other words, the Pharisees were bullies.
And they knew how to mind control too.
They absolutely did, because bullying is one of the best forms of mind control. You know why? Because seduction, you can only seduce beyond a certain point. And then people go, okay, all right, fine, whatever. But bullying, cruelty, demoralizes people, and it reduces their humanity.
Right.
Did you hear Ben Affleck and the other guy talking about how they'd rather be in jail than be canceled? Did you hear that one?
Ben Affleck or Ben, the Jewish guy?
No, it was Ben Affleck.
Oh,
Ben Affleck and another actor, they were talking about the cancel culture, and they were saying that they'd rather be in jail than be canceled, because it's harder to come back from being canceled than it is from being in jail. Because if you're in jail, that you could say, well, I served my time and I'm I paid my debt or whatever. Being canceled is a very strange
Interesting.
thing.
David, it's the power of, in school, if somebody had cooties.
Oh, yeah.
No, we don't want to play with him. He's got cooties. So the news people and I don't know why my words are escaping me this morning.
It's the power of the crowd is what it is.
The power of the crowd, but the power of the microphone and the camera to dictate and to paint people in a certain way. And that is where Trump has been immune. They've tried to do this to him all these years, David. And he's like the only one that has been able to survive the onslaught of just trying to destroy his character. But most people cannot survive it.
Most people can't because they are exocentric, which means they depend upon how they're seen by others more than how they're seen by God. That's just, there's only two ways about it now. And this is how, people who will do things and sacrifice for the sake of obedience to God. That's how they get through it, because they know that it's more important what heaven thinks of them than earth, right? Mm-hmm. And this is, but there's a saying, the wisdom of the crowd. But see, the crowd, that's democracy. That's direct control over your life through a group of people who don't even know you. It's crazy. All right, quick break here. FA2.com. Again, please check out the Be Still and Know exercise, you will not see things the same after that. I'll be right back. Okay, well, that was hour one.
Okay.
And in 3, 2, 1. Okay, welcome to Perilous World Radio. Dan Masters, David Masters today, and talking about angels and other related topics. I've got some really interesting audio from both Roy Masters and Padre Pio. And I would like to play another selection from Padre Pio.
Okay.
Now, the first part talks about how he saw angels protecting people in their sleep. This one continues that. Here it comes.
And when night fell and the world drifted into unconsciousness, Padre Pio saw what the angels do while humanity sleeps. He once told a spiritual daughter, "When you cannot come to me, send your angel. I will recognize him by the fragrance of your soul." Those who followed his counsel testified that their prayers reached him instantly, even across oceans, as if the angel had whispered directly into his ear during Mass. But it was not only messages that the angels carried. Padre Pio witnessed their vigilance during the most vulnerable hours, when the soul is unguarded and the body lies still. What he saw was not peaceful. It was warfare. One night, Padre Pio was granted a vision that shook him more deeply than any encounter with demons. He saw a man asleep in his bed. The room was ordinary. The man's breathing was slow and steady. His body rested, unaware. But Padre Pio saw what the man could not. Standing beside him was his guardian angel, radiant beyond description, clothed in light so pure that Padre Pio's eyes could hardly bear it. The angel's face was turned upward, toward heaven, in constant prayer.
Yeah, I just, when I listened to this, I thought, okay, there are moments where I feel the dark force. And, but if that's true, then there is something on the other side of that, which is from God. There has to be.
Yes.
And yet, when most people, when they go to sleep, they're escaping from the day. So they close their eyes. Oh, I can't wait to go to bed. They're just so tired. They're so exhausted. They're just ready to throw themselves into the realm of nod. And I do think that a lot of times, if you don't go to bed meditating and, focusing in the now and staying in the moment, because when you do that, then you're setting a different trajectory for your subconscious mind. And, I've had many interesting dreams in my life, and I've had interesting revelations of things that I've seen beyond my waking hours. So I don't know that people want to see much more at the end of the day. I think they just want to escape. And if that's true, then without knowing it, they're opening themselves up more to the dark side, almost entirely to the dark side.
Well, I think it just depends on where you're at spiritually with God, because I know that the closer I move toward him, the more faith I have that I am protected in my sleep. I'm his. I'm not worried. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, it's all about what you're opening the doors to in your daily life. And a lot of times that will show up in your dreams.
Well, let's talk about that for a minute, because you said you're not worried. Now, what I have identified worry as is belief in a negative outcome.
Right.
And there's no other way to look at it. When you worry about something, you're trying to sort of figure and
protect yourself. Protect yourself.
You're looking at the trajectory of what it is that you think is going to happen, but it doesn't necessarily mean it is. Right?
Right. I always think of it as, a small child when he's holding his father's hand, he has no fear. He's fine because his father is there. And that's the way I feel. And I believe that's the way he wants us to lean on him and realize I'm yours and I trust you, God. I trust you. And, you know, it's just about, where is your faith? When we grow up and we're vulnerable, we become our own savior. We figure out how we're going to do this, how we're going to prevent this, how we're never going to get hurt again, we become our own savior, soldier, right? We become hyper vigilant about every little thing, and
as opposed to hyper villainous, which is what's going on in me.
Yeah, and you know, leaning on Christ is releasing of that, a slow release of the reins, and realizing He sent the Spirit to guide you in your life. You don't have to try to be your own savior.
I got to tell you the story.
All right.
Because I don't think that it's necessarily bad that you confront evil and demonic forces as well. Now, I was on vacation one year. I remember because Alexander was 4 years old. So this is going back 15 or 16 years. And so we went to Santa Barbara and we're walking down State Street toward the pier. And I look out across the railroad tracks and I see way down the tracks this little shadow of a human.
Mm-hmm.
And something says to me, Alexander was on my right hand, and something says to me, switch him over to your left hand. And as soon as I did that, this little tiny man that was about 3 feet tall, big, giant, round eyes, strange looking eyes, like cat eyes, white hair, spiky hair, sharp teeth, ends up right next to me on my right-hand side.
Wow.
And I look over and I go, I was startled. Like, where did this guy come from, right?
Yeah.
But I saw the shadow down the railroad tracks, and all of a sudden it just appeared next to me.
Weird.
And it says to me, how you doing? Just like just that voice right there.
Yeah.
Deep, gravelly voice. I said, I'm doing okay. How are you? And this is what he said to me. Oh, I'm bored. I've been in hell all day. And then I looked over at Alexander, and Alexander didn't even notice him.
Oh,
and
interesting.
I looked back and he says, and I can't wait to pee on your grave. And then at that time, I looked at Alexander, and as I looked back again, it was gone.
So Alexander never noticed it. It was a spiritual thing.
It was a total, it was real, and it was spiritual. It was a real manifestation. But then I thought, that was awesome, because I must be doing something right.
Wow.
That's the way I looked at it. It's like, so I called Mancow, my friend, and I said, Mancow, you can't believe what happened to me. I said, it was awesome because it's a sign that when you confront these things and when they confront you, they're trying to give you a warning, just like, like these protesters outside of these ICE facilities. Those are the same kind of demonic people, these presences, and they show up and they take over. If you could see spiritually, what would you see? Surrounding all of these ICE agents that are there trying to do the right thing, and all these people being acted upon by the dark force.
Yeah, it's true. And it's all throughout the scripture that what we're seeing here is there's much more to it going on in the spirit realm. The forces of good and evil are battling for the souls of men. That's what it is. That's what we're living through.
Absolutely. I mean, I have no doubt about it. There's another time when a similar situation happened, except for this homeless woman. We were down at the market where my dad's house used to be. Mm-hmm. You know the location.
Yeah.
So there's a coffee shop there, and we were all, getting coffee and get the chocolate milk for the kids or whatever. And we're standing outside where they had some seating, and this homeless woman shows up with her cart, and she's cursing. Mm-hmm. And she's obviously demon possessed. I mean, completely, like Tasmanian devil. And everybody, there was probably about half a dozen people, maybe more, standing around, and there was 2 policemen there, and they just didn't do a thing. And I thought, this is really disturbing. So I decided, I said to my wife, take the kids over just a little ways away. And I walked up to her and I said to her, I said, "You don't belong here." And she looked, all the F words came out.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to her, "Do you know who I am?" And that's when she started to freak out. "I'm not one of hers," is what I was saying. "I'm not subject to you." And she ran away after I asked her that 3 or 4 times. Now we got to take a quick break. I'll continue after the break. FHU.com, find out more. True story.
Oh.
That's all I had to say to her.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what else to say. It's like, "I'm not one of yours. You can't tell me." But she didn't want to be in my presence. Isn't that weird?
Did she leave?
She left. She ran away. She took her cart and she bolted. Okay, here we go.
Okay.
3, 2, 1. All right, continuing here with this is, it's weird though, because the average person doesn't know how to deal with the reality of confronting the dark side. Now, this is something that policemen are trained to do. It's called community policing. So instead of escalating, they're trained to de-escalate. And if you watch, I love to watch these cop shows, and how they deal with people, and even the lowest of the people who have done terrible things. The police are they are trained how to not let their contempt get the best of them in dealing with these people. And there was a guy, I watched one the other day. A guy stole a car. He wrecked 5 police cars trying to escape. Then he ended up jumping in a river and thinking he could swim across. Now, apparently this guy was on meth or whatever. And he started to drown. As he swam out into this river, he thought, and the cop says, come on back. You're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. And finally, the perpetrator slipped under the water and he was drowning. So the cop got out, he went down the bank, a 10-foot steep bank into the water. He noodled this guy out with his foot, picked him up and revived him. And then it's like, I was amazed at what an amazing attitude this guy, he was obviously had been very well trained. Come to find out, he was a military guy before he became a policeman. But I thought, this is a perfect example of how you deal with evil, that you don't take the opportunity to crush it just because you can. Because you could have just let that guy drown. He actually saved him. He saved his life. And all the other policemen were saying, wow, this guy did a great job dealing with that. They were all in awe of the way he dealt with it. And he himself, when he swallowed water, he could have drowned himself trying to save the perpetrator, but and then he threw up the river water. But it was an amazing thing that when you are not subject to the forces that you're in opposition with, when you realize that you're not subject to those forces, then you have a different kind of strength that's operating in you. Your thoughts?
Well, you're not reacting to what the stupid, crazy things people are doing. You realize they are under some kind of influence, and you have to be a stabilizing influence and do whatever you can, instead of thinking, "Well, he deserves it, let him go."
Yeah, exactly.
It says takes a certain temperament to be that kind of a person in law enforcement. Dealing with the lawbreakers, the lawless.
Yeah.
That's somebody's got to do it.
What he said, as a law enforcement officer, our main duty is to protect and serve everyone.
Right.
And so even though this guy he did everything, the bad guy did everything he could to get away, and he wreaked havoc, in the end, that cop stayed with the humanity side of things. He kept his humanity. He didn't let that other guy bring out the worst. He brought out the best in him.
Yes. And that's what we should all be wanting to do in our lives. With all the difficult situations, difficult people. And that's what, as a follower of Jesus, what we're supposed to be doing is bringing that light to every situation, right? Not just the policeman, but the people in your own house, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, but you know, the old saying, familiarity breeds contempt. So, yeah, it must be difficult because the law enforcement people deal with riffraff all day long, every day. But at the same time, I used to work with a very toxic person in the radio business, and he was very mean and very abusive. But somebody said to me one day, "How do you deal with that?" You know, it's always threatening and saying terrible things. And I said, "Hey, it's a job, and at the end of the day, I get to go home."
Right.
And that's how I did it. I was the only one for many, many, many years that could withstand the cruelty. And there was only one time which I actually got up and walked out. I didn't say anything. I didn't react badly, but you know, he said, "Get out of my studio," and I wasn't in the studio with him, but I said, "Okay," and I got up and walked out. Then he started to panic, and he said, "Well, I'm not going to do my show until David comes back." So this was all about control. It was all about control.
Yeah.
And so in that moment where I just finally drew a line with him. And then when I came back, it was like nothing happened. I had to let it be that way so that there was a continuity of this person being able to continue doing what he did. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's what we're supposed to do with our children.
Yeah.
They act out, but we remain steady, steadfast. That's any good leader. That's what they need to be. I'm going to say.
Well, that's Trump, isn't it?
There's Trump again.
He doesn't get flustered. He just, I mean, yeah, once in a while he will react with a little like,
flip the finger the other day.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But it's like, okay, but you know, that's in a way it's kind of funny because he's like, yeah, well, whatever, you know, it's back to you too.
And when you look, David, at the monumental decisions that this man is making in our world today, not just for our country, which has crazy things going on, trying to save our country, but then dealing with the long-term plan of the safety of our country, which includes Venezuela, Greenland, all these decisions that I'm telling you, no normal person can manage all these things and retain his sanity.
I will tell you, yes, but I will tell you this. I've thought about this too. And I had the frightening realization that Trump is a one of a kind. So, but the other thing is, so I'm looking at the next election, next presidential election. I don't know if there's anybody that's like Trump. I don't think there's anybody like Trump, but he's surrounded by, but he's
doing his very specific part, and then others will come along to do their specific part and carry the torch.
Yeah. But he is surrounded by the right kind of people that support him and inform him and help him make those decisions to see. And that's what he didn't have the first time around, even though he was amazing the first time around.
Yeah, true.
The people that he surrounded himself now with are the right kind of people. And that gives him a certain strength to continue forward. I guarantee you the people, they have these conversations like you can't even imagine. Anyway, we got to take a quick break here. We'll continue. I got more Padre Pio. I got Roy Masters too. FHU.com is where the Be Still No exercise is available. Please try it. It will realign your life. I'll be right back. I keep saying I, but I'm just so used to doing it.
It's okay.
Okay, now this is a long segment, and I'm gonna play another Padre Pio. I got 3 more to play. These are all really good. All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1. All right, continuing with the program, and I want to play for you the other one on what Padre Pio watched in terms of seeing what happens when people sleep. You ready for this? Here it comes.
His hands were extended over the sleeping man, not touching him, but surrounding him with a presence that formed a kind of invisible shield. And then Padre Pio saw the others. Dark figures circled the room like vultures. They moved slowly, deliberately, testing the edges of the light that emanated from the angel. They whispered, they hissed, they waited for any gap, any momentary weakness in the man's soul that would allow them entry. They did not need to wake him. They only needed to plant a seed, a thought, a temptation, a subtle corruption that would bloom into sin when morning came. The angel did not move. He did not strike at the demons. He simply remained, his presence an unbreakable wall, his prayer rising like incense directly to the throne of God. Padre Pio watched as the demons tested again and again, but the angel's vigilance never wavered.
See, there it is right there. And I think it was Paul Revere who famously said the price of freedom is consistent and constant vigilance. So always being there on guard, or at least alert and aware. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, let me play another clip of Padre Pio, because this minute is 2 minutes and 20 seconds, but he talks about his guardian angel that he was shown, and I think this is important.
Okay.
His spiritual director, Father Agustin, recognized something exceptional in him. He saw holiness, yes, but holiness must be proven. And so, a test was prepared. A letter was sent to Padre Pio, not in Italian, not in Latin, but in Greek, a language the young friar had never studied, never read, never even been exposed to. It was a test no one expected him to pass, except God. Padre Pio received the letter, opened it, and read every word as if it had been written in his own tongue. He responded immediately, writing back with perfect comprehension. When his spiritual director received Padre Pio's reply, he was shaken. How could this be? How could a poor Italian friar understand Greek with such precision? He confronted Padre Pio, demanding an explanation. Padre Pio lowered his eyes, as if embarrassed by something that was not his doing, and whispered, "My guardian angel explained everything to me." There was no triumph, no excitement, no personal credit. The miracle was not about him. It was about obedience, God showing a priest that the soul in his care was being guided directly from heaven. Years later, this moment would become a landmark, the first great sign that Padre Pio's mind was being shaped by a world far beyond earthly reach, because it would not end with Greek. Soon, letters would arrive from every direction: French, German, English. They came from priests and scholars, some sincere, others eager to catch him in a lie. Padre Pio answered them all, accurately, deeply, pastorally. Father Agustin once sent him a letter in French, simply to see if what he suspected was true. Padre Pio responded instantly, perfectly. No hesitation, no dictionary. Because this gift was not learned, it was given.
Ah, the given gift. And this is, again, not an endorsement of religion. This is an endorsement of spirituality. This man was a very deeply spiritual person. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and the fact that it said there was no excitement or pride about it. And it reminds me when the disciples were sent off by Jesus before he died to go and do his work, and they came back saying, "We cast out devils." And he basically said,
they were surprised themselves.
"In your name," he said, "in your name." And he said, and I'm going to put it in my own words, "Don't be too excited that you can do this. Just be happy your name is written in the book of life." Don't become prideful about anything that you're able to do that God does through you. That is the trap that trips us up. We feel, look what I did, right?
Yeah.
But it's not you. It's not you. And when you take the credit, you just lost the blessing from what you did. We have to watch that. You have to watch that whole left hand not knowing what the right hand is doing
That's it.
thing.
Yeah, that's a great point. People get too easily excited over themselves. And let me play the last clip of Padre Pio, because
All right.
it goes on a little bit more into this, the difference between the light and the darkness. Here it comes.
Every extraordinary gift in the Christian life has a purpose: the salvation of souls. When pride or arrogance tries to turn heaven into a spectacle, God refuses. Padre Pio understood this completely. His gifts were not for himself. They were for the hearts that arrived wounded, desperate, burdened by sin, needing the only freedom that matters: reconciliation with God. His guardian angel was not just a translator or a celestial secretary. He was a co-worker in the priesthood of Christ. Every time Padre Pio heard a confession in a foreign tongue, every time he read a letter he should not have understood, heaven itself was bending close to earth so that one more soul could be saved. Angels do not exist to decorate theology. They exist to fight for human eternity. This is why Padre Pio constantly urged his spiritual children to speak to their guardian angels, to trust them, to take them seriously. He wrote, "Never say you are alone. You would offend this heavenly companion." For Padre Pio, the visible and invisible worlds were one battlefield. He could see what we ignore. He could hear what we dismiss. And because he trusted completely, heaven could act freely through him.
Mm-hmm. Never say you're alone, and amen to that, because if you were alone, I think that you would know it in a different way than just a feeling. I think that you would know that there was no hope. If you're alone, there is no hope. No hope for anything. But you're not.
These are emotions that we get set up to feel as children if we get ostracized or, put down, feeling separate from the family, or mother and father taking out their issues on you. And these things, they just stick to you. They stick to you until the day you wake up and you realize your mother and father are just travelers on this earth with you, and your true father is in heaven and has a purpose and a plan for you. And then you can shed all of those feelings that have been stuck on you all those years.
I've thought about John, who ended up on the island of Patmos by himself, living in a cave, and then the revelation that was given to him, what was revealed. And, we are all capable of receiving what is revealed, but most people, there's a saying, many are called, but few are chosen. There's a calling on every human soul,
that's
that
right.
we can respond. It's like the voice of the master calling home the sheep or the dog. But the question is, do we respond? That's the question. I got another clip of Roy I'd like to play.
All right.
Here it goes.
And according to the dictates of the bully group, he's the leader of a bully for those he bully, and then those he bullies will then do the bullying. And they all answer to the chief bully in that system of things. And so we become a divided nation, and all divided into different camps. We never can be one nation under God under those things. What we really need to do is have common sense.
Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed.
Right.
But see, what happens is your common sense is there until it is somehow compressed or damaged, or it's like you're born with it, right? If you were a person that had, let's say, a congenital defect that you were born with, but I'm going to tell you that I know there's a person in the extended family who was born with Down syndrome, but this person has a conscience.
Isn't that amazing?
I mean, it's so clear this person is like there's a sweet spirit in there.
I have heard this over and over about Down syndrome kids, that there's that they don't lose their innocence, and they have a
But
very
there's something
sweet.
that the world cannot inject itself into. There's something about them that just is not injectable. And so whatever it is that whatever spirit is there is protected because it can't process things the way that you and I do.
Right.
We can't even there, if
They can't be, David, they can't be intellectually fooled.
Yeah, that's right.
They just, it's almost, like they just see what they see, and they, you know what I mean? You can't reach the mind to confuse. I mean, I'm guessing, I don't really know, but.
Well, yeah, it's like there's no open door. You can't just kick the door in and put in the nonsense, And
they have a purpose as well, to come into that family.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you see, the thing is that we all are here for a reason, somehow, some way, shape, or form. We're either a contributor to the solution or we're a contributor to the problem, but that's not necessarily our call, other than just to choose between the two. If you see that you're contributing to the problem, you say, okay, I don't want to be that problem anymore.
Right.
And that changes the polarity. Quick break here. One more segment. FHU.com is where you find out more. And donations are tax deductible. It really helps when you guys help. We'll be right back. Okay. 3, 2, 1. And welcome back. I've got another couple clips I'd like to play of Roy, if that's okay. Here we go.
We need to have a religion. I don't know how to say it. We need to have a religion which isn't so much a religion, although the Bible is a most wonderful book of instruction. And I do believe in the Jesus, he is the Christ and all the other good stuff. But I believe that he came to save us from religion, to save us from all the brainwashing of politics and religion. So each person belongs to a different sect and believes a certain way because he's brought up that way.
Yeah. I mean, every home is a microcosm of some kind of individual culture of a bigger culture.
Right.
So if you're born in China, you're going to become a communist. Now, some people, so for whatever reason, they're miraculously saved from the brainwashing damage that's done. And so they have this natural love and want for freedom. Your thoughts?
Well, regarding your dad's comment there, it's so true, is that when Christ came, are you still there? Sorry.
Yeah.
When Christ came, I'll get back to Moses. Moses was a type of savior, right? He freed the children of Israel from the political tyranny of Egypt and the Pharaoh, right? Well, Jesus did a similar thing when he came, but he was trying to free people from the tyranny of religion as far as the Pharisees go. And that is what I'm talking about. That tyranny still exists today.
Yeah.
And there's so much anti-Semitism out there right now. I almost feel like I have to be careful even saying anything negative. I'm not saying all Jews. I'm saying just like in our culture, we have the experts that people want to put their faith in. And I believe that in the Jewish culture, the Pharisees, who developed an oral tradition outside of the Bible and are looked at as the authorities, that they hold the keys. They hold the keys with the education of the children. And it's an amazing thing. But it all is going to serve a purpose. And Paul says, as followers of Christ, we are not to look down on the Jewish people who have not received him yet. We are not to also look down on them, for God has his plan, and he says, and in the end, all Israel will be saved. That's what Paul said. So he said it's a mystery.
Here comes another Roy Masters clip.
All right.
But brought up away from the common sense he would have had, the direct relationship with his God or Christ, the direct relationship. So the Christ is within him, in the temple of the living God, always talking to him quietly in a wordless way and helping him to be stout in the face of temptation and confusion. But the trouble is, as it happens, you come into the world as a little baby and you get molded and shaped. Whether it's a good molding in a good culture or whether it's a bad molding in a bad culture, the good molding is better. It's better to be a Christian and be molded a Christian than be molded a Nazi or a suicide bomber or a cannibal. Of course, there's good cultures and bad cultures. They're not all the same. And good cultures they encode the laws on the books in their teachings, how we should be, what we should be inside our hearts, so that it bears witness to that. We should find it, but it can't impose it upon you. You can't act it out. It's still brainwashing if you act it out. So if you're going to be brainwashed, it's better to be brainwashed to Judaism or Christianity or something like that, to act that good part out, so that all you have to do is understand what you've been taught and make it a living thing. And
There it is. I mean, you have to
Very
have
good.
something to base your identity on.
Yeah.
And if it's good, then it's wonderful, because then you're ahead of everybody else in the line.
You've got a foundation of truth.
Mm-hmm.
At least there's a truthful foundation that you have been exposed to in your life. And God says, train up your children in this way that they will return to it when they're old. It's evil to indoctrinate children into evil things. And it makes their life very difficult. Not impossible to come out of it, but very difficult. But even so, even in rearing your children the best you can, they will have their own moment of truth in their life where it becomes their story now. They have their own testimony of how they understood it, not just because they learned it when it became real in their heart, as your dad would say.
Yeah. Yeah, and he says that even if you act it out, it's still brainwashing. So, you could be around a group of people. I think a lot of people end up going to a church, and then they start to raise their hands and they do all the same things everybody else does, but they're just acting it out. It doesn't actuate it. It doesn't make it real. It just makes it part of a performance.
And I think what he said was, it's okay. You grow up in it, you act it out, but at some point, it has to become real to you.
Better. Yeah, it's better if you have that as a basis, a foundation for who you become.
Yes.
Until the point at which you realize it and understand it. And that's the key right there.
Agreed.
All right. Well, we are at about 40 seconds until the end of the show. Any last words?
I don't know right this moment. We were talking about angels, and, they're all throughout the scripture. Gabriel showed up to Mary to announce that
By the way, angel means messenger. And by the way,
there you go.
I have
you go.
discovered the angel Gabriel. You know what Gabriel means?
What?
God heals.
Interesting.
That's the name of that name. So that's what I'm calling on. And in the name of Jesus, I call on Gabriel to heal all the people that listen. And I hope you do the same, Jan.
Yep,
and that's the end.
Very good. Thank you all for listening.
Thanks, everybody. FHU.com. Find out more. That's it.
Okie dokie.
Somebody was asking a bunch of questions to you in the chat, and I don't know if you saw them.
I caught some of it.
Okay.
Probably not all, because I've been in and out.
It just had to do with the chats and how